ElectroServer gives you the ability to write your own custom code and have it run on the server. In doing this, you can extend the functionality of the server. You can write game code, other application code, things like that. Any of this custom code they're installed as what we call extensions, and there are a few types of components that can exist within an extension. They're managed objects, plugins, and event handlers. I'm not going to really get into the details of what extensions are and what those various components are in this tutorial. This tutorial is just focused on how to compile a component for an extension. So I'm going to show you how to do that, and if we have enough time, we'll install an extension quickly too. But we do have some upcoming tutorials that will delve into the concept of extensions much more deeply, each of the types, and we'll look at the structure of the installed extension as well. So let's get started here. I'm going to go into the code examples folder. By the way, I'm using ElectroServer 5.0.1, and if I go in the code examples directory and zoom down to UDPExample, in here there's a client directory which has an Adobe Air client and a Unity client, and there's a server directory which contains the server portion of the code for this example. So I'm going to go in there in Java, and there's an extension XML file which we won't need to modify. This is just used when we go to install the extension, and there's a source folder which contains the source code. We're also not going to look at the source code here. We're just going to assume it's written correctly. We're going to just try to compile it. So let's compile it. I've got NetBeans open, and I'm going to create a new project with NetBeans. New project, and I'm going to choose Java class library. Click Next. I'm going to call this new project UDPExample, and I'm going to browse to a location. I created a new folder called ES Extensions. I'm just going to put it in there. Click Finish. And now we need to tell this project which libraries to use when compiling, and we'll also need to copy in the source code from the examples folder. So let's open up this, and I just opened up the properties for this project. Click on Libraries, Add Jar Folder, and I need to browse to the installation directory of ElectroServer. Click on Server, Lib, and then we'll need the ElectroServer 5 jar and SLF4J-API-1.4.3 jar. This is for logging. This particular plugin that we're compiling uses logging, so it needs this jar. Click Open and OK. And now I need to copy the source folder from, we're currently here in the UDPExample folder. I'm going to copy the source directory and paste that into my new NetBeans project. So this is the project we just created. So I'm just pasting this in, and now it has the source code for the extension. Going back over to NetBeans, I can compile it just by right-clicking on the project and choose Clean and Build. Build successful. So if I go in here, I see that now there's a dist folder, and it contains UDPExample jar. So we've now successfully compiled server-side code for ElectroServer. Since we've only been going for a few minutes here, I'll assemble this into an extension and install it. I'm not going to go over the details too much of what we're doing. I'm just going to show you how to do it, since we'll have future tutorials that talk about that in more detail. So in order to install the extension, I'm going to need this jar and the extension XML file from the examples folder. So let me just copy this jar, and I can just close this now, and I'll go into the installation directory, server, extensions folder, and let me delete that. I'm going to create a new folder called UDPExample, and then double click to go in there, create a lib folder, not a shortcut but a lib folder, new lib, and paste the jar into there. So we need to paste the extension.xml file in here, so let's go grab it. So back over here in the code examples, UDP example, server, Java area, there's extension.xml. I'm going to copy that and go back into server, extensions, UDP example, and paste it in here. So now we've successfully compiled this UDP example and installed it into ElectroServer as an extension. So that's it. I am just going to launch ElectroServer really quick here just to show you that this works. So ElectroServer is launching locally, and now it's started. I'm going to test this UDP example with a Adobe Air client that I have installed. So I'm just going to compile this client. This is an Adobe Air application. Just going to log in. This is the UDPExample Adobe Air client that you can find in that same example directory. This is the UDP tester, and I'm currently in a room logged in, and that server-side plugin is running. I'm going to click Send UDP Message, and let's look at the server console. So the server, the plugin logged this to the console. So that means it worked. Look for some future tutorials from us that delve into extensions a lot more deeply.